We should make a hot sauce.
What?
That's
We
the most
should make a hot
oversaturated
sauce.
market in the world.
We could call it butt sauce.
Let's make a hot sauce and an IPA and see how successful we do.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate fine hot sauce. I refuse
And that's why it's going to be called butt sauce.
Call one butt sauce.
Gordo, I can't even give away our stickers. You.
I mean, touche.
Welcome everyone to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if that's something we want to greenlight or cancel. Today we're going to be talking about Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World ran 158 episodes over 7 seasons on ABC. Today we're talking about episode 1, which was called Pilot, originally airing September 24th, 1993. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Gordo, Nick, Ferg, and Joe. What's going on, guys?
Hello.
Feed it. Feed it.
Okay, mister, drop my son's underwear.
Hello.
What's going on, guys? How's everyone doing this week?
Good.
All right,
Good.
you know, tired.
11 years old.
I'm tired all the time, but I feel like I can at least talk again. Last week I felt like there was 2 pounds of mucus in my skull, so I got that going for me right now.
Gross.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt when you were 11 years old?
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep saying 11 years old because they say the words 11 years old like 50 fucking times in
They
this
were really
episode.
just trying to drive it in, so you knew how old Corey was.
Way too many times.
Kids do that. I saw that TikTok. It was like, I'm just a baby.
I say that to my dog. I'm like, don't yell at my dog. She's just a baby.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, don't yell at my dog. She's 11 years old.
My dog probably is 11 years old in dog years.
Well, that's
I
quick
think-
math on that.
How
Gordo
old's
math?
the dog?
My dog is like 12 years old in human years.
My cat's like 13.
Yeah, our cat is 14. Old.
No, cats can live like forever.
Yeah, my cat's going to live forever out of spite. She's nasty.
I think I've had a cat that lived to 17 once. I've known a few who've gone to 20, but most of those at that point were both blind and deaf. So
My first cat, Strega, went to 21.
that's an impressive cat life.
Yeah.
So did she get drunk and die the next on her 21st birthday? You were like, well, fuck it, you made it this far. Have a beer.
Ironically,
Joe.
no, on Strega. All right, so Boy Meets World, obviously a pretty iconic show. Today we're going to do our best to talk about just the first episode, although I feel like it's going to be really tough. But I have to assume everyone has seen this show, right? Even Gordo?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, this was a big one for I think all of us when we were kids.
I'll say this, and I guess already for the first time jumping ahead a little bit. It was interesting to go back and see such an early episode and really see how much that show had evolved and changed over the years. How even like the tone and the comedy, it was a completely different show early on than what it became.
Well, that's the interesting thing about Boy Meets World is they got their audience as kids, and they had that audience follow them through the adulthood of the kids themselves on the show. And it goes with the writing too, and this was planned that the like themes and stuff became more mature throughout the series too, to try to keep that same audience throughout the entire series.
That's interesting.
It makes sense.
I mean,
Although,
to be by design like that is interesting. Like, if
yeah,
they
not to
came
just
up
have
with
it happen
that...
by happenstance.
Yeah,
That's
if they came
something-
up with that before they filmed the first episode, that's kind of genius.
also very cocky to assume your show's going to last that long. Most of these guys are like, I hope we get 6 episodes.
I dig the confidence, all right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And as an actor, I'm sure you sign on when they're like, hey, we're going to try to make this go like as long as possible. You're like, sure, I'll take the steady paycheck.
I mean, that method is also fail-proof. You know, if it gets canceled, you get canceled or whatever. But if you keep going, you still have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's still something to work off of.
Yeah.
You still have to go in with a plan. And I do want to warn everyone early on, episode 1, everybody, no Topanga.
I thought of you, Jay,
No.
immediately. I was like, what's he going to do without
Okay.
Topanga?
Early
We-
Topanga was all weird and shit.
It's fine because honestly, like my evolving love of Topanga.
We didn't get Minkus either, and he's in the credits.
Yeah,
He's in
he
the
was
credits,
in the
yeah.
But with Topanga, it's like I don't need to revisit her as an 11-year-old girl because then I can't comment on her. So now we can just talk about Topanga now.
You just feel dirty jacking off later to her.
Nope. That's nope.
No, you don't feel dirty?
You freak.
Actually, they I don't know if you guys saw, and we are doing this episode just because we picked this up. Nick, actually, you picked this episode, and get into why in a second. But actually, some of the people from Boy Meets World are starting a podcast themselves about Boy Meets World called Pod Meets World.
It better be Will Friedle and Ryder Strong.
It is both of them and Topanga.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Are
good.
they gonna have the girl from Girl Meets World on there?
Hope not.
I don't know.
Now here's a
Maybe
question
when they
for
run
you.
out
Has
of
anybody
episodes.
watched Girl Meets World? Because I did not watch any of it.
I seen
No.
a couple episodes.
I
Any
cherry
part-
picked. I cherry picked the episodes that had the old cast members like reunited, like when Jonathan came back and stuff like that. So
I watched
I
I
didn't
think
watch
Jonathan?
one.
I watched
The-
maybe the
the
first
teacher.
2 or 3 episodes, and I intended to watch it, but it was, for us, it was like that nostalgia. We talk about this with a lot of shows that get revisited and reboots. It wasn't really made for us. It was it was for us to be like, oh, look, they're all back. And I think the goal was that maybe a lot of people our age have kids, so you could watch it with your
Together.
kids. But if you're me and you're 36 without children, it's not really meant for me to sit
You
at
know
home
what?
and watch it.
There's a huge disconnect in reboots, or not reboot. Yeah, that would be a reboot, right?
Soft reboot.
I mean,
That's like a continuation.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of a reboot.
But
A
they're
requel.
they never feel right, and I'm trying to think of why that's the case. And I feel like it's because they're trying to call back to the original too much. It's always like remember this, and long pause, and you never really get to feel it as a new show because they're trying to pull from the old show way too often. That, and I think just like the formats of how shows are made now are a lot different, and they just don't feel the same anymore.
Well, we've
But,
talked about this
they
with other
never
shows,
hit,
too.
Like, I think Fuller House was probably the closest you could get to.
That was the closest one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's that
but-
toying the line of, especially for shows that kids gravitate towards, when you do those shows later on, and we're all adults now, and you're still essentially making a kid show, but with all these winks to the past that those kids don't get, and the show's too young for the adults to watch.
I feel like that
It's
should have gone the other way, though, because if you're going to retool a show or reimagine or reboot a show that's 25 years old, all the people who know that show are not kids, right? So
Yeah.
you should gear it towards them and not a younger generation who has no idea what that show is.
Or you
Yeah.
go really heavy on it in the first episode because that's when all the people for nostalgia
True,
are
yeah.
gonna check
Yeah,
it out.
that's
and
smart,
you're-
yeah, front
pull
load
them
it.
in.
like,
fronted. But I mean,
I don't
everybody-
watch it, but, I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was
But-
going to say, to your point, everybody's trying to put like lightning back in a bottle. And
Work with Cobra Kai.
That
It
one
rare-
did seem to work. Everyone
it
seemed, I
rarely
haven't
works.
seen it, but I mean, it's got
I haven't
critical
seen it.
acclaim.
It's great. It's worth watching. But I was going to say, one show that I think, I never watched the original or the new one. It really wasn't made for me or my timeline, but like that iCarly show, I guess. Didn't they like, the new episodes, it's aged. It's like they're all older and the jokes are older. So like it's meant for old fans to continue watching it. And I think that's the
and
route a lot of
which
these
is
have to
the
go.
way you should do it, I think.
Yeah, but they didn't
'cause
even
that's
get
exactly
Sam
what they did.
back. Fuck that show.
What? Were you an iCarly guy?
I never
Yeah,
watched
man.
a minute of iCarly now.
Don't know what
Neither have
iCarly
I.
is.
So
It was
Nick,
a
I
very
mentioned this
popular
earlier.
Disney show.
Nick, you picked Boy Meets World. Was there a particular reason you wanted to do this show now?
Nothing like super specific. I had just been watching it on Disney Plus. I think it's on, right? And I started I just kind of picked a season and started, and it was the older versions of them, and I kind of realized that I really like the younger version of this show more, I think. And so I thought starting fresh at the first episode would be a good episode for this podcast.
And one other thing I wanted to bring up before we even get going, actually, Ferg, you have a son that's about as old as Corey is in this episode. Do you watch it with a different lens now, being the age of the father, or maybe not necessarily the age of his father in this episode, but being in that different role? Do you kind of look at this a little different now? Or can you
Yeah.
still view it through Corey's eyes?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I it's more that I just notice how he acts. Like my son's Corey's age, and the snipping back and stuff, the growing up stuff, the noticing stuff in the world. It's pretty accurate for the most part.
Plus, you did watch this entire episode from your treehouse.
That's something I always wanted as a kid, by the way. Like anytime.
Me too.
'cause
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Well, I don't watch children's programming now, but I feel like when we were kids, everyone had a treehouse. I'm like, I want a treehouse.
Gordo and I tried a couple times and failed every time.
Yes.
To build a tree.
We are not carpenters. We are not carpenters. But on that topic of children's shows, why are we
Of
watching
carpenters.
children's shows again? It's always so hard to watch these shows and like try and take them seriously because I'm not 11.
I don't mind.
Well,
I mean,
we'll-
it's just weird. It's just weird to look back on it and be like, oh, cool. Gung-ho over this 11-year-old kid broken up over dumb crap. Like,
Learning about love, you heartless bastard.
yeah, well, I am a heartless bastard. Like, he's 11. Like,
well,
I don't
well,
know.
it wasn't heartbreak on his part necessarily in this episode, but I think also, obviously we'll talk about this more as we go along, but this episode really focuses on just like the family dynamic, and even though it's through the eyes of Corey, it doesn't play the show doesn't play very juvenile. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's not. It doesn't like over animate like a lot of kids shows does, where it gets a lot goofier and slapsticky. It kind of plays it normal.
I feel like
It's like a serious
didn't-
children's show.
they didn't dumb it down. It's a smart comedy, but about younger people. You know what I mean? And like Jay said, it has all different age brackets in it too. You get to experience the parents' point of views. You get to experience the older brother's point of views, the older teacher's point of views. It's not just Corey, which I think is a part of the reason why this show was successful. Also interesting to note, Ben Savage, who is 11 years old in this, I think I didn't look up his actual age actually, so I could be wrong. But this is his 17th credit to that point. He had been in 16 other things at
Like Little
11 years old.
Monsters.
Princess
Little
Bride.
Monsters was actually his first, which I didn't know.
Clifford.
Gordo, that's
Princess
Fred
Bride.
Savage.
What?
And
They're both
Princess
in it, though,
Bride.
aren't
They're both
they?
in it.
They're
When
both
is
in
Ben
it.
in it?
Yeah.
He's like a smaller role.
In Little Monsters?
No,
Yeah.
he said Princess Bride.
Oh,
But yeah, I didn't know Ben Savage was in the Wonder Years. There was one episode, but he was in it. And then there's 15 other ones above that, and then Boy Meets World, which for his age is impressive. Their parents must just be like, "All right, time to go to work,
Right.
guys."
well, I think when you already have like Fred Savage, who's Ben's older brother, who obviously iconic from the Wonder Years, which is a show.
Yep.
I don't know. Does that can we cover the
we
Wonder
can't do
Years?
the
I feel like
Wonder
it's way
Years.
too
it's
serious.
not a sitcom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
it's,
No, it's a sitcom.
I
think-
it's like every
I think-
episode's serious. I don't know.
there's no calm.
The pilot of that, you visit with like a dead Vietnam soldier ghost. Like, I don't think we want to watch that.
That
Yeah,
show's
but,
a bummer.
But
It
to
is
go
a fucking
back,
bummer.
like I think when you have like a sibling and your parents are already in that world and in the circuit, I guess it's
The
easier to
Culkins.
just jump right in, right? Because they already have the connections, the agency, all that stuff.
Yeah, look at
So-
the Baldwins.
Hey, I
All
love
of
Billy
them.
Baldwin.
Well, Biodome is one of the most iconic films of all time, and we've talked about that before.
You must
but
be really
so
excited for Biodome too.
I don't think it's real. I think he's just pitching ideas and hoping that it gains traction so someone makes it.
Then why wouldn't he do Father-in-Law, which is a way better premise?
I
No.
get. Listen, you've pitched this in a prior episode, and I can't remember which one. But guys, in any event, go back, listen to all our old stuff if you're just catching up on us now. S1E1pod.com. We can find all the links to where to listen to us, all our social media. But Joe, yeah, your pitch for Father-in-Law, with the sequel to Son-in-Law,
too.
it makes a lot of sense. But I think if you could just hit up Pauly Shore, I mean, like if you get in the DMs, I'm sure he'll get back to you. He's not being bombarded at this point of his career.
I'm stealing your idea, buddy.
They won't answer my phone calls, buddy.
I did hear once that it was it's the most viewed movie on CMT of all time. So maybe CMT can put some money into it.
Does
I think
CMT play a lot of movies?
Yeah. When we used to have like cable with 1 billion channels, they have movies on like all day long.
Apparently, they just play Son-in-Law over and over again.
They played it a lot. And they also had their own like dinner and a movie show. I forget what movie we were watching. I think Swing Vote. And the like southern chef lady, I'll never forget. She was like, "And today we're gonna cook chicken parmesan." And they like broke my brain completely.
That was which one's the crazy Quaid? It's the normal Quaid, right? Which one? Which one's
Randy is the
Randy is
crazy
crazy.
Randy's crazy. Dennis Quaid's the normal one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a Dennis Quaid movie, right? Swing Vote, was it?
No, Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner. Oh, okay.
Is that the one with the one guy
Yeah.
has like
Yes,
the vote
the one
for
guy.
president?
He's that guy.
That guy.
He lives in like a county of one or something like that.
No,
Yeah,
it's that things are at a deadlock and he didn't vote, and they somehow know that he didn't vote, and his vote's the tie. Like, we need you to vote.
It's kind of like King Ralph.
But yeah, let's get into the episode. We haven't even started talking about the episode yet. So right off the bat, we're in the cafeteria at his school. He's in 6th grade, they say. So it's probably middle school, but everyone kind of does school different. So, but I'm going to assume it's like middle school and not just an upper elementary.
Actually, just to jump in on that real quick, when you mentioned earlier that like they wrote it to be like in chunks or whatever, the second season is about them going into high school, and that starts the high school years, which I thought was pretty nuts because 12 seems very early to go into high school.
Yeah, well, some schools have like a junior high that's like sectioned off separate from the high school. Like
It seems like a bad
building.
idea to have like girls and like the commingling at that age seems like too far away. And
Oh
too
yeah, it's a
close.
terrible idea. I mean, I remember when we were in middle school, and I don't know, people listening in all different areas where we went to school. We had 1st through 4th grade, 5th through 8th, and then 9th through 12. It was 3 different schools, 4 years each. And to me, that made sense. But I know not a lot of areas do it like that.
Winthrop
And
doesn't even do it like that.
I was gonna say, even our
anymore.
town doesn't do it like that anymore.
Yeah.
But I remember being in middle school, and when we were like, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, there was already guys from high school in front
Hanging
of our
around.
school talking to girls in like our age.
By the way, Ben Savage is 12 or 13, depending on when it was filmed in this. He was born in September 1980.
Okay.
He's so small in stature that it works for him. He doesn't look 13.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
That's because he shrank from the monster universe under
true.
his bed.
But yeah, so they're in the cafeteria, and the first scene is him and Mr. Feeney, who's his teacher, and they're both like at the vending machines at like the same time. Corey goes to buy a candy bar, and Mr. Feeney like instantly makes a comment about that and tells him like, doesn't your mother feed you breakfast in the morning? And he's like, well, yeah, I have to get the taste of shredded wheat out of my mouth.
This made me, I hadn't thought of this in so long, but such like a when you're a kid at school thing where he's like, hello, Mr. Feeney, and he's like, hello, Mr. Matthews. Like teachers would like condescendingly call you Mr., your last name.
Yeah.
It's like, we both know I'm 11. You can just say Joe. Like, it's not, I don't know what game we're playing here.
No, because you didn't constantly announce that you were 11.
That's true. If I did, maybe this would have gone differently for me.
I was trying very hard to see what kind of candy bar he was buying, but I think they intentionally had the wrapper not visible. But you could see in the background, it wasn't one of those shows where they flip everything backwards. Like you could see brand names, but what he was eating was not, I could not pick up on what it was.
He seems like a Zagnut man to me.
At first I thought it was a whatchamacallit.
Maybe $100,000.
I don't think
That was
those
a payday.
existed yet.
$100,000? Oh yeah, they did. They're called a $100,000 bar then, though.
What are your go-to vending machine snacks, boys?
Vending
know-
machine- I would have preferred you just said favorite candy bar.
Yeah, let's
but-
go candy bar. Let's go candy
No,
bar. Because my
vending
answer's
machine.
my answer's not even a candy bar. I just get like chips. It's not I think in the context of the candy bar conversation, but I understand you're asking and not willing to change it because you have an answer that's non-candy bar. So Gordo, what is it that you get from a vending machine?
Usually sandwiches.
Oh, why?
What, you guys don't get like vending machines? Like
Not
there's some
unless
bougie,
there's
there's
literally
some
nothing
bougie vending machines out
Yeah,
there.
no,
now.
where I work, we have a vending machine that's a standard vending machine with chips and candy bars. And then we have a second vending machine that's refrigerated that has like burgers and sandwiches. And I've mentioned there's almost like adult versions of Lunchables in there. And then like a couple different soda machines.
Adult versions of Lunchables, they just come with like condoms.
No, I sent you guys a picture because we talked
I
about
know
it
you mean,
in our
The
fresh
pickles on this sandwich taste very rubbery.
in our fresh off the boat episode.
Blows the bubble like cone heads.
Lunchables gets talked about in that episode a lot. So I had mentioned they're like it's just cheese and crackers and whatever
Like a
meat.
boiled
It's
egg.
a charcuterie board.
Yeah, charcuterie.
But yeah, in any event,
So fine, candy bar.
candy
What's
bar
your go-to
specific.
candy-
Yeah, what do you go for? What candy bar?
I can do this pretty quickly. I like a good candy bar. In order, I would go Take 5, Snickers. Snickers is very popular, but a lot of people don't talk about how good it is because of how oversaturated the market is with it. A Snickers is a good bar.
Great Google.
And
Google.
Chunkies. I love Chunkies, the little 4-square Chunkies.
I don't know if I've ever had a chunky.
Oh my God, they're so
You and
fucking
Michael
good.
Scott.
Michael Scott likes Chunkies?
It was
good
when
caramello bar.
he hugged
That's my
Pam at the
go-to.
art gallery, and she was asking what that
that's
was.
right,
And
that's
he's like
chunky.
chunky. Ferg, did you say what yours was?
Yeah, I like a good caramello bar.
Ooh,
Or
I like a
Carmelo bar,
caramello.
however you pronounce it. And I also like a good Milky Way.
Joe, did you say?
There's not a lot of bars I can eat because of
Oh,
my
right.
stupid stomach. But
What about in the before life? Did you have go-tos back then?
Oh, in the before life, I used to really like Milky Ways. Now I usually go for Reese's cups because I can have those, and those are pretty good. But because of that, I usually stick to the fruit candy. So I'll usually get like a Starburst.
Until you inevitably develop your peanut allergy.
Oh God, please no, please say no, no more allergies.
Gordo, did you say what yours was?
I am a Reese's guy or a Hershey's bar guy.
I was a little surprised. My thunder was stolen. Nick, Take 5 is my go-to.
Oh, they're so fucking good.
I used to love them. Yeah.
Take 5s are severely underrated. They are not talked about. They are the perfect
Yeah, you
candy
really
bar.
don't ever
I
hear
don't
about
think
them.
I've
yeah.
ever heard of him.
It's a
Actually-
5-layer bar with pretzel, chocolate, peanut butter.
I think there's a bit of marshmallow in there.
I think it's
Maybe-
peanut and peanut butter. I think that's two of the different
Yeah.
things listed.
It's crunchy.
It's
and
kinda
good.
like
I mean, I
cheating.
haven't had one in years, but I used to really like them.
And I believe Reese's bought out the rights to it, so now it's like a Reese's product.
Is it not good anymore? Like not like the
No, it's the
original, or
same
is it the
thing.
same?
It's like the
So
same
it's,
thing.
it's
Yeah.
crunchy pretzel, smooth peanut butter, salty peanuts, and sweet caramel.
There it is.
Nice.
So it's really a Take 4 bar because they could have just
They
said
count the
chunky
chocolate.
They could have said chunky peanut butter, but instead they said it has smooth peanut butter and peanuts. What?
Yeah, true.
No, am I correct in remembering? Again, it's been many years, but is it also very similar to the Fast Break? But the Fast Break was sort of more
No,
encompassed?
Fast Break's more of like a
bar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more of a standard like a Milky Way, Three Musketeers type.
Because
bar.
Take 5's a package of two
Yes.
oval things.
Well, he should have been getting a Fast Break then, because he'd have a Fast Break at Break Fast.
I don't
There
know
you
if
go.
in 93? I don't know if
I don't think they existed.
yeah, I don't even think Take 5s existed.
No.
I don't think 100 Grands existed.
Those
100
ca-
Grand's did.
100
They've been
Grand
around
is great.
since the 60s.
Definitely did.
Yeah.
Take 5 didn't come out till I think we were in middle school.
Gordo, I'm gonna need you to do a little outside homework on the 100 Grand bar. I feel like it wasn't around that early in the
was
game.
called the
I'm gonna
100 grand
Google
bar
that
back
right
then.
now.
Yeah,
Hold
I would
on.
say
it's
it
called
has
the
been around.
$100,000 bar back then. I'm serious. It's been around for like 50 years.
Yeah, because it's such a simple concoction. It seems like the first candy bar. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we just
Yeah.
stuck a bunch of peanuts to wheat shit.
And where was that? Like in our Halloween bags when we were kids, all you got was Snickers, Milky Way, and Three Musketeers.
I mean, 100 grand. Yes.
And those disgusting Whoppers.
Sorry, I
Oh, I
have
love
to
Whoppers.
unmute
And some
my.
asshole that gave you raisins.
I like raisins.
I like
I
raisins.
don't mind
too.
raisins.
I like Raisinets.
Then you would
all
love a
suck.
chunky.
So 1964.
Okay, I was way off.
Suck it, Jay.
Now you all owe us $100,000.
Better
Jay's
hope
gonna
that.
pay each of you all 100 grand.
I'd eat it and love it.
Just don't cash it right away. Just in
No, you're
give me
gonna
a phone
send them
call.
bars.
Still waiting for these Omaha Steaks checks to come in.
I know.
Promo code S1E1 at Omaha Steaks. Again, it will not work, but if we do it enough, maybe they'll
They'll
reach
come
out
looking
to
for
us.
us.
They're steaks. They're steaks from Omaha.
But they
You're
also sell
gonna-
hot dogs.
They sell a lot of things. They sell
Shut
chicken.
up and take my money.
I was looking through I sent a picture of it to you guys in the group chat. Someone got
Oh, yeah,
Omaha
all those
steaks
hot
at my
dog
work.
pics you were sending us.
Yeah, he sent me that picture of Dustin Diamond and a hot dog.
So, anyways, to go back to the episode, Feeney corrects Corey as he's buying that to tell him, like, that's not doing your body any favors loading up on junk like that. And Corey snaps back at him immediately. He's like, oh, thanks, Mr. Feeney, and please enjoy that high vitamin astronaut drink you're sucking down, referring to the coffee that he's having. Although I think coffee has a little bit more benefits to it if you're
It's a
drinking
great
just like straight
point, though.
coffee.
So you didn't get a laugh from that? You said that there wasn't that much comedy.
There wasn't
earlier
that
when we
much.
were
That wasn't
talking.
funny.
There's not a lot of comedy in the
I thought that
episode.
was funny. I like
I thought
Corey's
I thought it was
wit.
funny. I didn't say, well, so we talked about this outside a little bit before we started recording to clue everyone else in. I just don't think that this episode has a lot of laughs in it compared to like a standard sitcom, especially one geared towards children. So there's not as many punchlines as we see in a lot of other, shows that we typically cover.
It wasn't
it was kinda
needed back
boring.
then. It wasn't. You didn't need rapid fire joke after joke after joke. You just needed good storytelling with the occasional joke back then.
No, this ain't it, Chief.
You're not a chief.
I mean, look, we can go either way on that, but so are we to assume then if he wasn't drinking coffee that the drink he should be drinking is Tang? Because that is the drink the astronauts
That
took
is
to
the
moon.
astronaut drink, yes.
So I was gonna say, is he drinking instant coffee? Because coffee itself has been around for God knows how.
I think it was one of
long.
those like coffee vending machines. I think he was also going to the vending machines. Like we covered the
yeah.
tick, and there was those old, you'd see them at like where you get your oil changes and stuff. That's where you'd have like those old coffee vending machines.
Maybe he
Coffee
got it
is-
from the teacher's lounge.
Yeah, coffee is good for you in general. When you put 9 sugar and 9 cream in it, it becomes not good for you. And I'm assuming that's what he was drinking.
It is not good for you. Caffeine is not good for you.
Well, coffee has like antioxidants and stuff. I mean, it's not bad for you, I'm saying. It's not like inherently bad. It becomes bad when you put a bunch of terrible things in it for you.
Plus, I'm a decaf man now.
I was
You're all
for
set.
over a decade. It's good. But then when you get back on it, it's like you're on speed all the time. And then you're...
Yeah. I went
Can't
back
function.
on it and had to get back off of it again. Well, I went back on it and had to go half decaf now because
Half
I
calf
just
is
couldn't
good.
handle it. I couldn't handle it. Like, it made me feel like shit.
I'm full calf, boys. Boys gotta.
I'm back
live
to
your
full
life
calf,
the limit.
too.
Can we not have a coffee conversation again?
What's
about
your
wrestling
favorite
instead?
coffee drink?
Yeah, it's been discussed in an old episode.
It's
So,
called
go
coffee
back
ice
one.
cream.
Oh, I do love coffee ice cream.
Oh, we found the one that Ferg likes.
You know, my
It's weird
mom's the
'cause
same way.
I don't like coffee.
My
I
mom
like
hates
the smell
coffee
of
too. She likes coffee ice cream. But so after this interaction,
Time out though. If you
All right,
don't like
Zach.
coffee, what would possess you to be like, oh, I'm totally gonna try coffee flavored ice cream? Like a legit question.
Because we all have grandparents, and every grandparent had coffee ice cream.
Okay.
Because when you're out of
touche.
pralines and dick flavor, that's the only flavor that's left.
Pralines and dick.
yeah, I just think that's one of those. If it's presented to you, you'll try it. Like I don't think there's an ice cream flavor I wouldn't try if it was like standard,
about poop?
nothing weird. Now, no,
What
not
about
poop. Like, no,
Poop ice cream.
Didn't somebody do that? Didn't that... one of those Comedy Central shows where he would go and make things weird for people?
Or like those like jelly bean like barf flavors.
Jelly Belly does stuff like that.
Bird-
They're all
Birdie
disgusting,
bots.
too.
I'm sure there's like a dog poop Jelly Belly or something like that. I also want to remind the listeners, Gordo is the oldest person in this group who's asking about poop flavored ice cream. But so after this interaction between Corey and Mr. Feeney, Corey ends up heading back over to his table at the cafeteria where 2 of his friends are, Sean and Nicholas. Nicholas, don't get too used to him in episode 1, but
But
in
do you
the
know
eyes
who
of
he
a
is?
first-time viewer.
Oh, yeah.
Squints.
This is a good reveal for him.
It's Squints from The Sandlot,
I thought he was
really?
the younger. I thought he was the younger brother.
which
in Home
coincidentally came out the same year.
Big year for him.
Yeah,
Except he didn't land that Boy Meets World thing.
So
They
did
used him on the pilot and moved
A
on.
little research when I found out the whole thing about the targeted like age group thing. When they first put out the show, they wanted it to be a friend group of 3, and throughout the first season, they changed the third friend, I think, 3 or 4 times, and then they were just like, "Fuck it, it's just Corey and Sean."
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
I do
wonder
remember- I do remember
why he didn't
hearing
work
about
out. Because they
They gave him a lot, too, because he's got...
They
we'll
gave
get
him
to
more
it,
than
but they
Sean.
gave him a pretty big scene.
Sean had like nothing the whole episode except for like right here, which is when he's like telling Corey, "Hey, watch out! Like Feeney's your teacher; he can make your life miserable."
Isn't he his teacher too?
Yes, but what he's telling Corey is like you're talking back to your
Oh.
teacher. Be careful, like he can make your life hell. Because that's when Corey's like, "Well, I'm gonna be miserable anyhow. At least this way, I'm taking him with me."
Anytime there's something like that with casting, it's the parents of the kid. It's always the problem.
And there was also dialogue between the 3 kids when they were sitting down that I didn't know what show. So they were gauging how late they stayed up. And they were saying, monologue. And the next one will go monologue first guest. It was obviously a late night show. And they were spinning around and they kept going like each one would name the next segment to see like who lasted the longest watching the late night show. But they didn't specify which one, which I guess it doesn't matter. But I was so like eager to know if it was like Leno or Letterman.
If it's ABC,
It would have been Letterman.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably
No.
Letterman.
It's still Carson in 92.
Really? When did Carson give it up?
I think 92 may have been his last year, but they mentioned Steve Lawrence. So Steve Lawrence, who's famous for Steve and Edie, he was on the very first Tonight Show with Steve Allen. Like, that's how far back he goes. So he rode through and was like a very popular guest on the show with Carson too, like for years and years and years. So I think if 92, if the late shift is to be remembered correctly, I would imagine that this is his last. I think 92 into 93 may have been the last season that.
So what
Carson
time was
hosted.
that actually on though? Because I'm trying to gauge if they made it to the musical guest, how late was he actually up for?
12:30.
That used to be on 11:30 to 1, right?
No. 11:30 to 12:30.
I always thght it was an hour and a half like SNL.
Yeah, I thought it was an
haven't
hour and a
watched
half
it in years.
show. Hour and a half show.
I don't remember.
Yeah, because I think the
all,
Late Late
yeah.
Show was on at midnight. Or on a 1, rather.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
maybe
yeah,
I'm
these
not-
kids are all up.
Maybe
yeah.
I'm remembering Leno.
Oh,
I
I
thought
forgot.
Leno was like an hour.
By the way, I forgot to mention another fun fact about Boy Meets World. It's the only show that started on TGIF and ended on TGIF. Like, original lineup all the way to the end.
Like, didn't get bounced
Wow.
around to another network.
That's impressive.
Or
It's
did
the
it get
only-
bounced to
only
like a
show-
different night? Like, oh, this
Yeah.
isn't working out. We're gonna move you to Mondays. Or so. Yeah. Next was like the opening credits, which
I
I
don't
like.
remember these ones.
I do, and that's what I wanted to mention because there's a later kind of that surf rocky version that
It's like
people
10.
know
Boom,
more now. But like the When This Boy Meets World,
Yeah.
like that's like the later one, and I don't like that one much at all.
I like that a lot better than this one, which
There's
goes
actually
from
3.
weird synth music to marching band music all of a sudden.
I don't
I
mind
don't know.
this one.
This one, like, it's a nostalgia thing. For
Yeah, me
sure.
too.
If I had heard this for the first time, would I have liked it? Probably not. But it's fully nostalgic induced.
I think it's fine
enjoyment.
for what it is. It's a lot of kind of he's there. There's a lot of floating things around him, like
It's
all
almost
that.
like the Home Improvement one where like the set moves around them.
I
Yeah,
thought
a
the same
little bit of
thing.
that.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being the theme song, but this song was used for every transition on the show, like throughout a lot of it.
Yes.
Yeah, they paid for this score and they got their money worth out of it.
Yeah, no, I prefer this one, I believe. This one, I think, worked more for me than the later ones did.
It had no hook, you know? It
I
keep
must
you
have
coming
No
with a
hook.
good
When you
tune.
think it's gonna get to a hook, instead you hear like bum 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 bum. brrrr. Like, oh, what the fuck just happened?
It reminded me of a 90s science show. It didn't make me think like this is a sitcom about a kid in school.
It seems like the theme music that would be in like Revenge of the Nerds 7 made for TV movie. You know what I mean?
Booger has a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
That little snot.
Oh,
Heyo.
Get Hollywood on the phone now.
we've written so many movies on this
Guys,
show.
yeah,
We
we're
need to
just,
start a
we're just
production
sending out
company.
gold here. But yeah, so following the opening scene, now we get to Feeney's classroom for the first time. And this is when you see the Romeo and Juliet reenactment that with two of the students, Nicholas being one of them. And there's the girl like laying flat and Feeney's telling Nicholas to kill himself because that's how the story goes.
Different time.
I'm pretty sure they didn't teach Shakespeare in 4th grade.
No, they definitely didn't. It was like high school.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
It's like high school, like late middle school, high school.
I don't. I mean, I remember in high school, but I do not remember any Shakespeare. I mean, your kids are so thick at that age and like don't pick up on things like that. It seems like you're trying to teach Shakespeare to a brick wall. I mean, it's hard enough when you're like 18, and I like Shakespeare, but
I was gonna
that does
say,
not come in.
So, what's your favorite Shakespeare
Don't start.
story?
That's not going to be an interesting conversation
Yeah.
at all. But if you have one that you'd like to chime in with, I do have a Hamlet quote on tattooed on my chest.
I was just wondering. It wasn't like to be.
I don't
funny or
follow a lot. To be completely honest with you, I do not. All I know is what I was taught in school. I don't follow a lot of Shakespeare in my adult life nowadays.
Well, he's not like dropping anything new.
But I didn't really follow any of the old stuff, like unless it was.
I don't like his
stuff,
new
like-
stuff so much, but I do like the
other
old
than what was
classics.
taught in school, which wasn't a ton to us. To be completely honest, I couldn't tell you how most of them go.
Yeah, I like some of it. I mean, I get confused with the kings and there's like Henrys and like they all get sort of confusing there, but I do enjoy some of it.
Do you remember the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio that they
Claire
made in
Danes.
like the 90s?
Oof,
Yeah.
that is a bad movie.
I remember they made
forgot
us
that
watch
was
that in
Claire Danes.
school, and I'm pretty sure that was high school. Would have loved to teach with movies.
Oh yeah, our entire Spanish class for the entirety of high
Tombstone?
school was a hungover teacher saying, "Watch Tombstone."
Not
Putting his head
hungover,
down.
just drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, he wasn't hungover.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, continually still drunk. Either watch Tombstone or Selena, and I never complained about that class.
Or Fools Rush In.
Fools
Rush
Rush
In,
In.
yeah.
Why Fools Rush In?
Or remember the Titans.
Fools Rush In because it was vaguely Spanish.
Right. It was like, well, there's a Spanish actress in it, so we'll put Fools Rush In.
Why Tombstone though?
because he probably had the DVD and it had dubbed.
It had, well, I mean,
You
a
know.
lot of it, there's a lot of Spanish speaking in it, and it's in, Arizona, I guess, but he had it it wasn't in Spanish and dubbed in, it was subtitled in Spanish. So you were just watching the movie still in English, but had Spanish subtitles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. And he would put up the paper, and he would just completely fall asleep behind it by the end of the class.
We had a great education system.
Yes, we did.
Here we are now.
I was going to say a lot of us is suddenly making a lot more sense to me.
In Feeney's class during this Shakespeare thing, Nicholas is saying, hey, can't I just stab her a couple times and make sure she's actually dead first before I kill myself? And this is when the girl gets up and she says, hey, you touch me with that knife, you better kill me the first time. And not very childish. It was good. It was good, but it was not very like childish. But we've talked about that before. They don't really overly play to kids in a goofy way in the show.
But also, like, you could never do this now. In the
Oh,
world
no.
we live in
That's
now.
how kids play, though. Kids that play army men.
I
and
agree.
guns
It's just
and
not how
stuff.
it's
Totally
portrayed.
agree, yeah.
It was accurate.
It's just not how they portray it on
appreciate it.
television anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying they couldn't portray that on TV anymore. I mean, we all played like that. Every one of us played with toy guns and everything. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary to me for kids. I mean, my nieces and nephews, right? Like, they always want to play with Nerf guns and stuff. It's still the same. It'll always be the same. I just don't think a TV show would make light of it anymore.
Where we have
appreciate it.
this Shakespeare demonstration at the front of the class. Sitting towards the back is Corey and Sean. And Corey has his like handheld radio with them with headphones in. And Sean's asking him, hey, what's the update on the game? And Corey's listening to the baseball game, in his ear and giving him like the highlights, as it's happening, the live update. And Feeney eventually catches on and sees him, grabs the radio from him, sticks it in his ear, and he starts commentating. And then right when it gets to his good point, because it looks like someone hit, what probably ended up being a fly ball, but he's given the play-by-play. And right when you're about to find out if the ball got caught or was a home run, he just turns it off and stops talking.
Now, is anybody else throwing? And that's a good gag. He plays it. Feeney is very funny describing everything. But a day game in September?
It happens.
Not during like the week though.
That happens more than you think it does.
Yeah, it happens pretty often.
It does, but I mean, I'm getting the impression that we're in playoff season.
It was
Yeah,
right
it'd be
before,
like
because he says
October.
after that game, the following game would determine whether or not they made it into the playoffs. So yeah.
What's weirder about that day game is that it appears to be at 9:30 in the morning.
Right, like I can't get
Yeah.
a gauge on it.
That would be the only thing. It would have to be like the last class of the day to maybe run into times like maybe it was a 1:00 game or something like that.
And you'd think if at that late in the season determining playoffs that the clearances for those games would be at night for TV networks and ratings and whatnot.
It depends. Baseball is a little different in that way. It's not far-fetched that there could be a day game going on in September at this time, a couple games away from playoff contention. Because basically it was determining if they were clinching the playoffs too, not necessarily the last games of the season. So,
No, them winning that game meant the game that they go to Friday mattered.
right. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that only meant that they would clinch, not necessarily
yeah.
that it was the last game of the season, regular season.
That's true.
Was Abe Knuckleball Schwartz pitching that game? I think he was.
One could hope.
Yeah.
One could hope. So when Feeney eventually takes away the radio from him, he tells him this is, the ultimate testament of love between a man and a woman, Romeo and Juliet, that is. And Corey's like, Mr. Feeney, who cares about some guy who killed himself over a dumb girl? Feeney's explaining like the intricacies of all this stuff going on, and saying that the tragedy here, Mr. Matthews, is not about a dumb girl or the boy who kills himself because of her. It's about the all-consuming power of love and the inevitability of its influence on each of our lives. And Corey's like, you are aware that I'm only 11 years old, right? Which I know you guys say he mentions a lot his age, but I think
Too
in
many times.
this first time, in the context he used it in, was very funny. Used very well.
I just think he should have said, I'm just a kid, right? I think that would have played to a better, larger base of kids.
I think that worked there. I think that was fine. I think it's because you heard it later on afterwards, so now in retrospect it watered it down. I think it would have worked fine if they didn't go back to it.
I don't know. If I was 10 years old, I'd be like, damn, I have no idea what you're talking about.
This isn't for me.
But the reply he gets from Mr. Feeney is, you are aware that you're in detention Friday afternoon, right? And Corey's like, no, actually, I did not know that. And there's just like, Feeney's just nodding at him.
Great teacher.
He is a good teacher. From when you see from him, he seems to genuinely care about teaching the kids. And the idea of trying to teach, or not even just to teach, just explain like, hey, love is important. You don't get this because you're a kid and this is why. And then when he's like, I don't get it, he's like, you're in detention. You're an idiot. Like, let's
And I
move it
think
on.
it's-
Like, I do appreciate that.
I
And
mean,
detention is fair because I think it's less about saying though, like, who cares about some dumb
Oh, no,
love
it's about the
story.
radio.
It's all about the radio, yeah. So it's a fair punishment for the crime.
I would have liked it better if he was listening to Howard Stern. He just like tells him to fuck off.
I mean, to be fair, imagine having to be a teacher, having to teach Shakespeare to 11-year-olds. Like, no.
That's something teachers don't do. 'Cause
Right. There's probably a reason that doesn't happen a
so
lot.
unrealistic.
But I think if you take away the wording, right? Because that's the thing with Shakespeare that'll take you out of it, is that it's the actual, what's the right word I'm looking for here? How they speak. They're
Elizabethan? Is it Elizabethan?
yeah.
They're
English.
phrasing, the
Yes.
language.
Yeah. They're old
Pentamina.
middle English.
That,
I
so
believe.
like I think when you take that out and you take away the fact that they are speaking in a manner that you wouldn't have, and you just break down the context of the stories and the themes, I think there's enough to engage anyone in. It's just a matter of how it's presented. So it's not an impossible task. It's just getting away from the specific words and more breaking down what those words mean.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll give that to you. I mean, once you get through like the dust the, protest, like I get it. But that's just still not something you do with 11-year-olds. Unless they're in like a gifted school. And even then he'd be excited. Then he'd be excited to be learning Shakespeare.
Well, you have to break it down. It's important to break it down. So, like, Shakespeare broken down for kids that age. Like, a good example would be, like, surf dudes with attitudes.
Kind of groovy.
See how that works? You all understood that. That is the bard right there.
And for those of you who want to go back and listen to our California Dreams episode last week, please feel free to give that a listen if you haven't yet. From that scene is the next time we're in Corey's house, and he's in his room. It looks like he has a shared room with his brother. Corey runs in all excited and tells his brother Eric, Phillies won. Like, that means that the game tomorrow on Friday, I believe, means if they win, they make it to the playoffs. Eric is also excited because Eric just got a date with this girl, Heather, in his class, which I guess was, from the way he made it sound, a very popular girl. So just the fact that he would be going on a date with her puts him in a certain light, They are both excited about different things at different times, and they're going back and forth with it. Corey's going over the specifics of the game because now that next game is a game that him and his brother were going to go do together. What it turns out to be is, due to the fact that Eric now has a date, that is the time and place he's taking her. He's going to take this girl Heather to the game instead of his brother. I thought, and I want to talk about it a little bit later too, but I side with Corey on this one. I think it was kind of a dick move to not just not take his brother, but like if you promise your younger brother, I'm taking you to the game, just be like, oh, I got a date now, I'm going to take her instead. You could have made a date with a girl on whatever date once you establish you two are going to go out sometime.
Or like give him the tickets for the dad and him to go, and you take the girl out to dinner or a movie or anything else. Their entire room looks like the Phillies Fanatics store threw up in it. That kid obviously is a huge baseball fan. Like, let him go.
He bought the tickets. He can do what he wants with them.
That's true.
It's true, and I think as we'll talk about in a little bit when the parents get involved, it's factual. So it's not like he's doing anything wrong. I just felt like he made the wrong decision there.
Oh, he definitely made the wrong decision. I mean, no one's questioning that, but
I think it's the wrong decision just because that's a bad first date.
That
you
is,
go to
yeah.
a baseball game, you can't convert. You're watching the game.
Well, it could be fun.
Is a
playoff,
bad first
especially-
date in a major stadium like that.
No, I feel like that can be, it's fun, it's sociable, there's a lot of people out there. Baseball's not a game you have to be locked into. There's plenty of time where you could talk to the person you're with at a baseball game. We've actually, me, Ferg, and Nick, we've all been to the Phillies park in the past.
did you
What
meet
is
the
that park
fanatic?
called?
I was mighty drunk. I don't remember much of that.
That was the last one we went to, wasn't it?
That was the last leg of a long road trip. So I think at that point we were just like,
Yeah,
let's
I
just
don't
get this
recall
one
it
out of the
at
way.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all kind of bled into each other at that point. But from what I remember, it was a nice park.
I mean, I don't think I've been to a major league baseball park though before where I wasn't drinking, so I don't know.
What I also liked about this scene was Corey not getting it when Eric's trying to explain to him, hey, this date is changing our plans. And he's like, so you're giving me the tickets? And then it was like, I'm going with Heather? I think maybe deep down he knew, but he was just hoping that it was anything but what his brother was about to tell him.
I do like the idea though of this episode spins off, and for some reason it's just him going to the baseball game with Heather.
What a shitty first date.
We're supposed to go on a date, but he maybe take his brother to a baseball game, like his little kid brother. I had to buy him a pennant.
Well, if they all went together, that would be a little weird for a first date.
And a hot dog. And
My very first baseball game that my dad took me to, we got a pennant, and then we bumped into Mike Greenwell as we were looking for our car, and he signed my pennant. So
I
That
don't
wasn't
know.
my cream wall.
always get a
Some guy
pennant.
being like, "Yeah, sure, kid."
And the Mike Green wall is the wall we have at Fenway Park in the back.
Yes,
If you guys don't know.
The Greenwell monster. From there, Corey now runs downstairs to basically tell his parents that Eric's no longer taking them to the game. they essentially side with Eric here. And I don't know. I was a little surprised by that.
I feel like you're allowing chaos and you shouldn't be in that situation. You know what I mean? As a parent, you're like, look, technically correct. These are his tickets. He can do whatever you want with them. But if you promise your brother you're going to do something with them and then you don't, it's surprising to me that their response would be, well, he really likes the girl, though. Like, that's not how this works. They'd usually be like, now, Punky, you can go on the date on Saturday. Like, you know, it's such a weird thing to just be like, fuck this. He goes, you stay home.
Well, I mean, I think it was the mother who acknowledged, like, well, he did pay for the tickets, which, again, it's fair, but I just thought it was weird that they were so quick to be like, no, that's fine that he just left you in the cold after promising you that he was going to take you to the game.
Maybe he didn't promise him. He said we go every year, but we don't know if, like, maybe he just assumed he was taking him.
It's possible. Also in this conversation, we realized that the mother was already aware that Corey has detention on Friday. And he's like, how can you possibly know that? And we find out in this moment that Mr. Feeney lives directly next door to them.
It would be such a nightmare. Just how like bad we were in school to have the teacher next door to tell our parents every fucked up thing
you go
we
through
did.
Most of school hoping that half the things you didn't find their way home.
Nick, I was going to say, Nick did have that.
Yeah, Nick had that. Jay had that to an extent, too, across the street.
Oh,
yeah.
That was an art teacher. They don't count.
Whoa, hold on.
You know what? Normally, I wouldn't let you dunk on her or art teachers. I'm not dunking on art teachers.
I love her.
In
Don't get
general.
me wrong. I'm saying it don't count where like you'd get in trouble that way.
It's less likely that I'm going to get in trouble in art class than I am in English class.
Last
maybe
time
it
I
came
saw
out
her,
wrong.
though,
Sorry,
she was very
art
mean
teachers.
to me, so dunk away.
To be fair, Jay did assault an art teacher.
That is not factual.
I'm Jay's witness that didn't happen.
Did we talk about this on the podcast before? I can't remember if
I
we
don't
did.
think so, no.
All right, so I'll tell it as quick as I can because to
Because the
clear my
statute of
good name.
limitations is now up.
No, because I didn't do anything. So we had a teacher in middle school who was, not middle school, I'm sorry, in high school, one of the art teachers
Miss
was,
Lippy.
she was Miss Lippy from Billy Madison, essentially. She was very eccentric. She was a character, to say the least.
She is the person who informed us of 9/11.
Of 9/11, I was just going to say that.
So she loomed forever in my heart.
Yeah,
basically
so
kicked down the door.
So one day,
the tower.
we can't laugh about that.
We can laugh at the way it was told to us.
It was told to us in a very weird way that we didn't know something serious was happening because she's such a wild character. In any event, one day we're leaving school for the day. It's like Friday and we're heading out. And I'm not going to pretend I'm completely innocent here. As I'm walking by her classroom, I kicked out her doorstop to make her door shut as we were leaving school for the day. But then she runs out after me and she's like, Jay, give me my doorstop back. Like I snatched it with my hand and was walking out with it when I just kicked it loose so the door would shut.
You needed one for home.
Yeah, so I keep telling her, like, I don't have your doorstop. And she's
My door
like,
won't
insisting.
stop at home. I need
She's insisting that I have the doorstop, and she's yelling at me over and over again, like, give me back my doorstop. So then when we
Long
get to
story
the...
short, Jay punched her in the face
And then
ran down the
so
hallway.
then the only logical thing to do from there was punch her in the face so she'd leave me alone. No, so we get to the final, like, door before the entrance hallway to our school, and she's standing in front of it. She's like, I'm not letting you leave until you give me my doorstop. Mind you, I legitimately do not have it. You know, it's Friday. I have to go to work right after school. And I'm like, you know what, Miss Lippy? I won't use her real name. I was like, the one problem with your plan here is you're standing in front of a push door. And I, open the door behind her and I just walk out. So flash forward to Monday, I get called into the office and I don't know what's going on. And the principal was going, Jay, what the hell did you do? I was like, what are you talking about? Miss Lippy sent, a complaint in and said that you hit her. I was like, wait, what? Because this is the first time hearing this at all. And she had already told a bunch of other teachers in the school that, like, I legitimately struck her. So now half the teachers in our high school want me expelled because they think I'm just assaulting teachers. And a female teacher at that. So we then go into her classroom together to clarify, the validity of her story. And then when we're in there, she goes, well, he didn't hit me, but when he went to push the door open, his arm grazed my shoulder. And I'm like, so you told him that I hit you? And the long story short of that is that I had to do an in-school detention session basically to just appease all the teachers who wanted me dead or expelled. So I had to stay one day and we had those working detentions where I had to help clean up. And he told the custodial staff as soon as the last teacher is gone. Let him leave. Very bizarre crime for something I didn't technically do.
Yeah, I mean, and then there was the drama teacher that you slapped with a fish.
What? Was the real story not weird enough, Gordo, that you needed to come up with a cartoon version of the story? Like, was that actual story not strange enough?
That was strange. I actually didn't know that happened to you.
Yeah. So they're going on about the detention, and it comes to this, like, like the bigger issue is you bought a house next to my teacher. He's like, I want to move. I want to move now.
I like how his reasoning is to move to the treehouse that is closer to the teacher.
Yeah, so I was confused about that, and I wanted to bring that
That's
up.
not why. He moves to there because the family betrays him.
Was that the motivation? Was because the parents sided with Eric over the ticket issue?
It was because of the ticket issue with Eric, and then the parents siding with him, yeah. He even says, my family betrayed me when he's telling, I think, Feeney later. Or someone later. I don't remember who he tells.
I think he's telling Sean.
Am I remembering incorrect? Because I remember him saying the betrayal part later on. But did they ever have a moment where he said that he was moving out in this argument? Because I don't remember that happening.
I think it was in this argument. I think he just did it afterwards. I think.
Yeah, and they make reference to him moving back in a bunch of times, but I don't think they say I'm moving out.
Yeah, there was no moving out, just that I'm moving back in.
Yeah, I think he was telling the story to Sean and the other kid. Telling the story and telling how he moved out through that.
Also, I want to point out I don't feel bad for Corey because how much of a dick he is to the little sister.
Well, there's another line that I really want to touch on during the argument with the parents, too, that I forgot to bring up earlier, is when the dad's like, Corey, he paid for those tickets with his own money. He can take whoever he wants. He goes, I earned those tickets. I slept with him for 11 years.
Yes.
What?
That's immediately in my notes where I wrote, I didn't know they were stepbrothers.
You could have just
share
said,
a room, damn it.
Just say, I had to share a room with him for 11 years, not I slept with him for 11 years.
You really can't say slept with without anybody's mind going to that.
Yeah, that does not come out right.
Apparently just you two, because my mind didn't go there.
Really?
My mind did not go there.
No.
Really, guys? It didn't.
You guys find this
creeps.
shit. Like, yeah, it's weird.
He screamed, I slept with him for 11 years.
Yeah, sharing a room.
He doesn't say share a room. I understand that he does.
He said slept with them.
What about nights where it got really cold and needed warmth?
No, I'm not I don't want you guys to lump me and Joe.
No, you're already in that boat.
Like, no,
all right?
really.
You hitched your ride to that sinking ship.
Then anything he says, I get lumped into that team. No.
Yep.
No.
Especially if you agree with him.
We've been doing the laundry together for 11 years and I keep getting stuck in the dryer.
But Ferg, to go back to what you were saying too with the sister, because she did offer the sister, the youngest child, there's 3 kids. It's Eric, Corey, and then Morgan, the youngest one, the only daughter.
Original Morgan.
And yes, Morgan was replaced in later seasons by a different Morgan. She offers to go to the game with him with, was it Debbie the doll?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he turns that down right away. And he's pretty angry. But I guess he's just worked up at this moment, right? It's not that he wouldn't go to a game with his sister, but...
You do feel bad, though. He's taking it out on his little sister.
Yeah, he was just mad about the way the situation went. Also, even if he took her up on that offer, if you were their parents, would you let the 11-year-old and his younger sister go to the game unsupervised together?
Go to downtown Philadelphia together to go to a baseball game? I don't think so.
It was never in question that they were going to go. It's just his reaction to it. Yeah, I don't want to go to a game with my sister and her stupid dolls. Like,
when you're 11, obviously.
She was incredibly sweet about it.
When you're 11, I think you just look at things differently than as you get older.
No, I give you that, Jay. I mean, I also think that there's no way that they're letting him go anyways. Like, again, shitty parents. They should have just put the kibosh on all of this if somebody had been a decent parent. And said,
no, the decent move would have let him go on his date with the girl and the dad say, Corey, I'll take you to the game, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that too.
Unless they couldn't get tickets because
it was sold out. It was established later that the game was sold out.
Yeah, but there's always just all these tickets out front.
But we don't know what he does for a job in this episode, so we don't know if they've got scalper ticket money.
Have you seen that house? They have it.
Well, especially if they're this is a playoff game too, like
it's not a playoff
type
game.
It's
it was to get. It's
clincher.
like it. Yeah, it's like.
I mean, it's going to be more in demand than a game on like a Tuesday in July.
Kind of a Bobo playoff game, right, Joe?
It's also the 90s when people still cared about baseball.
It was starting to peak up again. It wasn't quite there but the steroids were almost there. The steroids were about to start. In
This
a
is
few more years.
pre-steroid and
this-
pre-strike.
Yeah, the strike was like a year later.
The strike was the strike was that year, wasn't it?
94.
94, a couple years later.
Okay. And then that's also when the steroids and stuff started coming out, right?
Couple more years. Yeah, 95.
The good old
When you
days.
started really seeing them.
What year did McGuire break that record?
I want to say that was like 96, 97.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
was
he
later
a
90s.
juiced ape.
All those dudes, yeah. But it made baseball super, like everyone was super into it because it was
Yeah,
the race to
as
who's
much
gonna
as like
hit
people
more.
look back and go, oh, they're all cheap. None of us would have been watching baseball at the time if it wasn't for all those jacked up dudes hitting 70 home runs every year.
It's true, yeah.
It made it way more must-watch TV.
So,
I
like,
love baseball, but
yeah.
baseball has 10,000 games a season. If they got something to make people want to watch every one, they should have held on to it for dear life.
That's why I want to go see the Savannah Bananas.
I'll go.
I'll go.
We'd have to plan a
We
trip to
gotta-
Savannah.
I'm okay with that.
I will say, though, if we do, we should try to go either really early season or really late season because Savannah's going to be real hot outside in the midsummer.
I don't want to do that for the same reason I don't want to see the Harlem Globetrotters. It just doesn't matter.
It'd be fun.
You don't want to see the Globetrotters? It'd be so fun.
You know what also doesn't matter? A Red Sox game in June.
True.
It matters.
Barely.
Every game counts. There was that year that we missed the playoffs by one game. They won one game early. They made the playoffs.
That's
You
true. That
can't.
one
You
game in June.
cannot be a fan of professional wrestling and tell me that the Globetrotters are silly. I'm sorry.
I didn't say anything about them being silly. I said they don't matter.
Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot about all the wrestling matches that matter.
To be fair, I love wrestling, and wrestling doesn't matter, though. You know what I mean?
It doesn't. I will say, out of the five of us, Ferg's probably the most likely to get angry if the guy he wants to win doesn't win.
True.
Yeah. But, yeah, all right. So following that, we're back in the cafeteria, and Corey, Sean, and Nicholas they're just kind of sitting there looking at their lunches. And Sean and Corey bought school lunch where I think Nicholas brings his in. And they're going back and forth saying, like, well, mine's got fuzz. And Corey's like, mine's got lips. It's like, what are they eating that's that disgusting?
I think they're just being kids. Like,
Yeah,
goofy
yeah.
joke.
I mean, if they really had fuzz, you know that like people would be down there.
Maybe
They
one
could've
had
hot
a,
dogs.
maybe one
Hot
had a
dogs do
peach.
have lips in them.
And one had a peach. It was fuzzy.
It's a peach hot dog.
Like a giant peach.
So then they're kind of idolizing Nicholas's lunch because he has, a packed lunch from home. And it's not this disgusting cafeteria food that they had. It's like, oh, it must be nice being an only child, huh? It's like, and then Corey jumps in to make it like he has it worse. He's like, well, I'm an orphan now, as of last night. My family, they dumped me. It was kind of mutual. They're keeping the house.
This sort of, I mean, like, it's always funny when kids speak like adults. I don't know why that works so well. So, like, this does work for, like, his trying to understand or what he thinks his perceived plight is,
I want to know, like, what the situation is with their school lunches, that it's that disgusting that everything's fuzzy and has lips.
It's a common trope on TV that like school lunches are gross, but I always thought they were delicious.
It was
I
like
never had a problem
pizza.
with
Half the
Depending
time
on
it
what
was,
you had.
half the
Depending on
time
what
it's
you had.
pizza. Like, it's nothing
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah, most of the time it was like, do you want to, like, make a sandwich or have a piece of pizza? You're like, okay, yeah, sure. Why? It's not weird,
Yeah, it's pretty basic stuff. It was never anything like, they're not getting experimental. They're not like testing your palate as a 10-year-old.
It's the way they make it sound in like every like movie and TV show, like they're just slapping slop down like it's prison.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely not prison food. Like, it's good. I mean, like the chicken
I'm trying to
nuggets
think
are
of
always
like
good.
what would be a weird item that they would serve in school that you typically would go, oh, why is that here? Like that we actually encountered and saw in school. I can't remember anything being that weird.
I can't either. Maybe like a meatloaf here and there, but
The
even then,
ribacue.
like- no, the ribacue was delicious. Don't
It was
you dare
delicious. It was
insult
just
that.
weird.
Meatloaf, I think, is a good one, Gordo, because everybody makes meatloaf differently, so you're so subjective on whether or not you find somebody else's meatloaf.
I want to
good.
say we've had a meatloaf conversation before. It might have been wings. I can't remember, but I feel like we've had the meatloaf
We talk
conversation
about food
before.
a lot. I don't know.
We
yeah.
do talk about food a lot.
Love me a good meatloaf.
But I will say,
Guys, let
and
me
I've probably
sleep
said
on
this
it.
in the past, I don't like the whole hot ketchup on top of meatloaf thing.
No,
I like
I don't
meatloaf,
either.
but the ketchup
I'm
thing
with you.
doesn't work for me. I don't know why that's part of it.
Because it's delicious.
The ketchup thing?
Well, I know. I dip it in cold ketchup.
That's
I've
even
done that
worse.
before.
Oh, guys, stop. it.
Meatloaf?
I get that essentially it's like
Yeah,
having
I do,
a burger.
I do that
but
in meatloaf. I do ketchup in meatloaf.
no, I don't need that.
I
I
prefer
won't
brown
cook
gravy,
it.
but I'm saying I have done that before. It's not
But
like,
Jay,
terrible.
we've discussed this. You don't spice anything up with any kind of condiments.
That's not
or-
true. I
Okay, you
showed
buy
guys-
a whole lot of hot sauce.
I do buy a whole lot of hot sauce. I probably spend like $100 a month on hot sauce. So you can't say I don't put like
You
any
literally only
seasoning or
use hot
anything.
sauce though. Like your burger's plain, hot dog's plain, and fucking everything's plain. But you put a gallon of hot sauce on a steak for some reason.
Not on steak. I buy a lot of
Ew.
like chicken and turkey.
Dude,
for
you air
stuff like
fry shitty steaks and put hot sauce on
that.
them.
No, I air fry turkey tenderloin and I put a lot of hot sauce on it.
I've never done it, but I've heard air frying steaks is pretty good. So
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
I haven't
all
done
timing.
it, but I
Listen.
did buy an air fryer this weekend.
Oh, you're in
Yeah.
for a treat, buddy.
Yeah.
I know God, we've had plenty of tangents this episode. Joe, I noticed when you posted about that, yours is more of like a toaster oven air fryer, right? It's like not like a conventional air fryer.
It's the kind my mom has actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like instead of having the basket, it does everything. You can use it as a toaster or an air fryer.
Does it work the same when you have it like that kind? Does the functionality similar like when you try to put the air fryer settings on?
Yeah, you can tell it's air frying, and it cooks everything like the same speed. And we've made a bunch of stuff in it that was really good so far. We went a little overboard.
I mean, I think the biggest joke on everybody is people convinced us that air fryers are like this new crazy technology.
Yeah, it's like
and
convection
not.
ovens.
It's not.
It's a
It's
convection oven with a fan, and that's it.
The problem is, though, is that for you to get a convection oven beforehand was very expensive. Now everybody can get it.
Yeah. And they are phenomenal. To those
They
of
are
you listening,
phenomenal.
if you do not have an air fryer yet, you really need to get with the times and buy one.
Code
I suggest.
S1E1.
At ninjafoodie.com.
Yeah.
You can cook your Omaha steaks in them.
And then cover
You
them in
could
hot
buy
sauce,
Jay's
apparently.
hot sauce. We should make a hot sauce.
What?
That's
We
the most
should make a hot
oversaturated
sauce.
market in the world.
Yes.
We could call it
That-
butt sauce.
Let's
That-
make a hot sauce and an IPA and see how successful we do.
Yeah, right.
First of all, I guarantee that already exists. Called a hot sauce named butt sauce.
I appreciate fine hot sauce. I refuse
And that's why it's
to
going to be called butt sauce.
Call one butt sauce.
I personally do not like hot sauce, but I do have a bottle of one that's called Dickhead, and the cover of it is Osama bin Laden's face, but it's a veiny penis head. And I've never tried it, but I always laugh when I see it in the cabinet. I don't know.
He's been sucking on the top of that bottle for years and hasn't got a drop out yet.
It was before they caught him. I thought if I did that, it'd be like an interrogation to find out where he was hiding.
Oh, the visuals.
But you guys wouldn't want to do like an S1E1 hot sauce or anything?
Just nobody wants it. Go to the grocery store and look at how many hot sauces are there. It is.
Gordo, I can't even give away our stickers. You
I mean, touche. I mean, if you want stickers, reach out to us because we have some.
We do have some stickers. We don't advertise that, though. I think that's probably the problem, is we don't tell people that we have these things. But we do have some stickers and probably a few more things in the works. So, we'll keep you guys up to date with that stuff. But, yeah, moving
Stickers,
along.
Magnets, got them all.
Corey's talking to Sean and Nick, and he's telling them, you guys are my new brothers now, and ask them if they want to go to the game. And it comes up, well, don't you have detention? He's like, well, I can work around that. It's like, Feeney hates you. He's like, I don't think he hates me. And he walks over to him. He's like, Mr. Feeney, may I sit down? He's like, I'd rather you didn't. And he just looks over and goes, yeah, he hates me.
He is by far the best part of this whole show, though.
Mr. Feeney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
the
for
heart.
Sure.
He's just so funny.
So another story about him is they wanted him in the show before there was any script or anything. He didn't want to do it, and then they sent him the script, and he loved the writing so much that he signed on.
Were the creators of the show big Knight Rider fans?
I think so. I don't know that far, to be honest.
One of the creators, Jay, is one of the creators of Dinosaurs. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that, actually. ABC just knocking it out of the park in the early 90s.
Yeah, he did this, Charles in Charge, My Two Dads.
Wow.
A bunch of shows we've talked about.
Charles
Some
in
that
Charge,
we've covered.
I'd love to cover, actually, because I
Charles in
haven't
Charge
watched
will
that
be a
show
good
in
one.
years. So yeah, but Feeney goes on to keep, he tells them, he spends so many hours a week with him, in class, and then has to see him outside of school because they live next to each other. So he's like, please get out of my face while I'm trying to eat. From there, this other teacher, Evelyn, she walks up and he had saved a seat for her. And it looks like there's a little bit of a love interest between the two of them at this point. It's not much is established at this stage of the
little
episode.
flirty.
But yeah, there's something there.
I mean, but how crappy is the school that the teachers don't even have a teacher's lounge?
There probably is a teacher's lounge, but we had teachers in school who would come and eat in the cafeteria sometimes, and sometimes they would have to do it like on duty, like they'd have to eat in there to make sure that like chaos didn't come down,
Yeah, he might be on like duty to watch over them too.
Yeah, he might
I
have
will
gotten a
say,
straw.
though, in Gordo's defense, Feeney does not come off as the type of teacher who wants to have his lunch amongst the students.
No, he does not seem like he likes children. A classic trait of people who spend their lives educating children, not actually
He loves
enjoying their
children.
company.
That's the whole thing.
There's a lot of evolution, I think, with that character over time.
Yeah, I'm thinking of just the pilot, not his character going forward.
I don't think that he, at this point, is so much that he loves kids, but he loves educating. And he wants to preserve, like, the ideals of all these lessons, and instill them on the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an abstract. It's not so much he loves children. Not like Max at Saved by the Bell loves children.
But, so the next scene, we're in Corey's backyard, and we see the treehouse, and he's in it. And the mother walks up, like, to Corey, who's sitting in the treehouse, to give him a brown bag with lunch. What was it? Well, she advertises it as chocolate pie with a side of barbecue chicken and corn on the cob.
I'm impressed she fit all that food in one little
It's a very small
Yeah.
bag, yeah.
And it looked like he was eating like a turkey leg, like one of those.
It was
turkey
it was like a
legs that,
quarter, like the chicken quarters you can buy. Just like the
Yeah.
drumstick and the thigh together.
Yeah, it was a big piece of bird right there.
Also, the bottom of that bag definitely would have just,
Greasy and soft.
caved from the weight and grease of that meal.
So they're aware that Corey moved out, but mom's still taking care of him in this time period. But I was thinking, and Ferg, we talked about this earlier, how you have a son about the same age as Corey. At his modern age, and I know the world's different, would you let him just sleep in the yard by himself?
I would. If it's in your backyard and they live in the suburbs, it's fenced off. It's safe. Me and Gordo used to sleep in a tent in my backyard. We were around that age.
Yeah, I guess that's like right around that threshold of age where it's okay-ish at this point. A little bit younger, probably too soon, but maybe right around here is okay.
And a little bit older, you can't trust them because they're definitely up to something worse.
Oh, that's sneaking out.
Yeah, they're sneaking off. If they're 14, you know what I mean? They're off to do something.
That's under the assumption that all kids are as shitty as we were when we were kids.
All kids are that shitty.
Oh, yeah.
So after the mom walks away, Corey's sister Morgan walks up, and she's offering Debbie her doll to Corey. She really is trying to bond with her brother a lot here, right? She sees that he's down, even when he had no one to go to the game with. Now here, she keeps trying to console him. He's kind of brushing her off each time, right? So this time she offers the doll to keep him company. It's like, why would I want a doll to keep me company? And she's like, well, in case you're scared. And again, he's like, Morgan, I'm 11 years old. Because this was not made clear yet.
He keeps goddamn saying it.
He does mention, I'm 11.
telling you, kids do that. They want you to know they're older.
But he
Forget
says that maybe at that point, when you first turn an age, like I remember, I guess, double digits. When you hit 10, you go, I'm double digits now. Like that's a big deal to you. But he tells her, I don't get scared. And even if I did, and had to defend myself, my weapon of choice wouldn't be a chick with a plastic head.
That's fair.
I like that when the mom left too, she tried to scare him out, like back into the house. He's like, I've been in my treehouse. And she goes, but never at night. And then she backs out and just leaves.
It seems like they live in a pretty quiet neighborhood, and they've got like a nice lush backyard.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably he's probably fine up there. But from this point, actually, after Morgan leaves, she does say, like, you didn't have to get snippy before she leaves. Corey's...
Oh, you bringing that line up makes me think of the line earlier when she asked about the doll, if she had her little like, well, you don't need to get snippy. And then like even earlier when she wanted to go to the game with him and he's like, yeah, maybe I'll wear my Spider-Man pajamas too. She goes, you don't have to dress up for me. She's an adorable little kid.
Yeah. That was, I forgot about that line. It was cute. From here, like there's kind of this like little tone shift. The series, it was like Corey's sitting in the treehouse and as established, he lives next to Mr. Feeney. He's looking through and he sees Feeney setting up his dinner table, and he's setting up like a table for two, and he has like candles out and plates and a really nice setup. And then he gets a phone call, and you can't hear what he's saying, but because you're only seeing it through the perspective of Corey watching him through the treehouse, and you see him get off the phone and then just quietly take away one of the placings, and he sits and eats alone. At that moment, it was like it was so sad. I felt so bad.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be super sad, and then they just cut to Corey just like eating a turkey leg like he's at the fucking Renaissance fair. It's like, wait, those two tones do not work. Also, at this point, all I could think of was a big horny bird.
Good old John Lovitz.
Love John Lovitz.
It stinks.
We have to
Yes,
do
I
the
am.
critic. We have to break our no cartoon.
Well, we've done a cartoon. It just
Until South Park, The Critic was my favorite cartoon show of all time.
The Critic is fantastic.
Really high up there. I have the DVD box set.
Me too, yeah.
But yeah, that scene to go back was, I don't know, it was such a bummer. I think that him eating the chicken wasn't meant to play so goofy, but it was because the piece of chicken was so large.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if it was a smaller drumstick and he was just kind of like curiously watching him while eating it, it wouldn't have come off that weird.
It
But
still
he's
would have been
eating-
weird. They
would've,
should have just
no.
made him not eating.
But he's eating a piece of chicken the
giant
size
piece
of his
chicken.
head, so it was a little.
They were
a little
trying
out
to
of place
ram
there.
in that they're both eating alone.
Yes, that's
they were
what
trying to
that was the
No,
intention.
I get
there.
it, but Colonel Sanders didn't need to make an appearance in this scene.
It was the size. I'm telling you, it's the size of the chicken that made that funny.
Yeah. There was no way around that.
Also, like, it was so forced because, say his dinner plans did get canceled, he could have sat down and ate and then cleared it all. He had to clear the table there before he sat down to eat alone.
Well,
to really,
they were
to
making
really
a
break
point.
my heart. Like,
Yeah.
Also, most people at that point, he would have taken his one plate and just moved to the living room and put the TV on. You know what
Well,
I mean?
he's so that's how classy
no,
of a
not
guy
Mr.
he is.
Feeney.
Like,
not
yeah,
him.
when I
lit
cook
candles.
if I cook for just myself, I'm eating still in the kitchen. You know, like
I'm
over
eating
my
out of the
sink.
pot.
Yeah,
over the sink like a rat.
Just like Andy, just slopping down hot sauce covered turkey.
hey, don't knock it till you try it. I just got a new 5-pack of sauces, all phenomenal. Shout out to Yellowbird, actually. But yeah, so the next scene is Corey's back in his room, and it looks like he's kind of just sneaking in there to get some, fresh clothes, fresh supplies while he's living by himself in the treehouse. And the mother walks up, and she has like is that the gun from Nintendo that she was holding?
It's
Or
the Nintendo light
Yeah.
gun.
yeah,
The duck hunt gun.
The duck hunt gun.
the later one with orange in it though. I have the OG one,
Yeah, the orange and white versus the gray. And
the one that's meant to look less like a gun.
You ever see the Japanese one that literally is painted to look like a gun?
No,
No.
I will look that up later though.
Yeah, they don't let you use that one anymore.
Yeah. And so the mom holds him up essentially and puts the gun to him, said, drop my son's underwear. And they have a little conversation there about just
Underwear and how nobody would want to take it.
essentially, yes, because it was
This
like
show
proof.
did- this
He was
just
trying to prove
so-
that it was him.
Boring. Like this.
No, it's a
just,
conversation about growing up, about how his brother's getting older and doesn't want to just hang out with his little brother. Just like when Corey got older, he doesn't want to hang out.
Well, that's
with
what the
his dad
conversation.
anymore.
That's what the conversation leads into. Yes.
And that
And
is
with
the
Gordo,
exact
this is a
plot
really
of
boring
this
scene.
is just
goofy
like
movie.
this whole episode is
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, like get to the fucking story. Like it's just so drawn out. There's not
This
enough
is the
comedy.
story.
Oh, I'm sorry there wasn't the Big Show putting the little kid on his shoulders going, oh, a
There
giant
was
Manny.
something there.
ah."
I'm sorry, he's not gonna be like, oh god, here's some underwear.
I mean, to be fair, if it was the Big Show going through his underwear drawer, that would have been a way more fun scene.
Also, Gordo, this conversation lasted maybe 45 seconds.
This was a quicker conversation. I do like the visual of the Big Show. Like you could definitely see if the Big show lasted longer, there would definitely have been a scene where he is doing laundry and picks up his underwear and it's gigantic. Like you knew that scene was going to come at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have taken
take this blanket. That's my underwear.
Yeah, it would have been literally the scene from Deuce Bigelow, Mel Gigolo. Or no, is that
the
Shallow
greatest-
Hell?
One of the greatest.
Shallow
Yeah,
Hell.
Shallow
It's
Hell,
Shallow
yeah.
Hell, yeah.
Shallow Hell wants a gal.
Yeah, as you guys said, it led into a conversation. It was more about after the underwear talk, where the mother is telling Corey, what your brother did to you is not unlike something that you did to your father. And Corey didn't understand. He's like, what are you talking about? I never left my, dad high and dry like that. And she tells a story about how when, he was younger, how they would always play catch in the yard. And how, the father looked forward to that just as much as he did. And as Corey got older and got more friends, obviously he wanted to play with his friends more and started playing catch with his dad less, which I think happens to all kids as they grow up. But boy, did that hit me in the feels. Gordo, you were bored by this conversation. That
I really
example,
was.
that when she talked about that, like I just placed, and I don't even have kids, and all I could think of was like my own niece, and there will be a time soon where as she gets a little older, she's not going to want to hang out with like me and my brother as much and have her own friends. And like, it just, I don't know. It's just not quite the cat in the cradle thing, because in that tale, the father was too busy all the time. But it just, I don't know, it got me in the feels when she was talking about how Corey kind of outgrew hanging out with his dad.
Like I said, that's the whole plot of a Goofy movie. Max got too old to want to hang out with Goofy, they were best friends on Goof Troop. So Goofy takes him on the vacation to try to rebond with him, but he doesn't want none of that because he's, a teenager.
Yeah, but
I think they pulled a lot from... Actually, when did the Goofy movie come out? This was before that, right?
This was before Goofy movie.
Yeah, I feel like Goofy movie is maybe a couple years after.
I should know. It's my favorite Disney movie, but let's see. A Goofy movie came out in 1995.
A little bit later than that. I don't know. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. His brother's going on a date. You getting friends is not the same thing.
It is the same thing.
It's
him
not.
Getting older.
It
and
is
not.
It's all about it's just about your priorities changing as you're in different places of your life.
You're talking about the birds and the bees, and you're talking about friends.
No, it's your priorities changing. It's not even a birds and the bees thing. It's a getting older thing, growing up.
But yeah, well, to conclude this conversation, Corey thanks his mother and says, you've always been very cordial to me when I lived here. And she says, thank you, Corey. I give you my word that the new boy will never replace you in our hearts. And now from there we get
good
to
parent
the actual
banter in this.
That was fun,
say.
yeah.
They don't give them much in this, and they are good later on in other seasons, not to jump ahead, obviously, but whenever they're on screen, they have good chemistry and they're pretty funny.
Yeah, and
way more believable than Horny Frank.
Yeah. They give Corey some good lines here, too. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. Ferg, you're referencing Step by Step. This episode, when it debuted on like TGIF at 8:30, is the time spot, sandwiched between Family Matters, then Boy Meets World, and then Step by Step right after. So that was actually
great in the 90s.
Yeah, what a hour and a half of television right there.
That makes me yearn for the better days of TV.
And I will say again, I've said this a couple times when we reference episodes we've covered. Step by Step we probably did a few months ago. I think it's one of our better episodes, so I would implore you, if you have not listened to Step by Step, I think that's a really fun episode to go back and listen to. If you want to just hear the tale of a horny man putting his children aside for the betterment of trying to get with a hot girl, that's the episode for you.
Much like Eric.
Yeah. Eric's a little more
I'm
innocent.
guessing Heather Rawls is no Suzanne Summers.
You don't know that.
I don't. I'm guessing.
We never get to see her. We never get to see her. But yeah, from here we get into this point where it's the actual detention session. And Corey's alone in the classroom and Mr. Feeney's grading his papers. And Corey's like, he's getting nothing out of Feeney. So he's just seeing what he can get away with as far as like, can I leave here? Because he's paying me no attention. So he does I'm standing up. I'm walking towards the door. My hand's on the doorknob. Okay, I'm opening the door. And he's getting no reaction from Feeney. To the point where Corey exits the room and shuts the door and goes, I'm out in the hallway now.
That got me when he said it. Like, I thought the scene was done, and I'm in the hallway.
I didn't know where it was going. I was like, is he just going to leave?
I would have left. Like, if he wanted to go to the game, he could have just left and then gotten in more trouble the next day. Like, what are your priorities here, man?
If you want to go to the game that bad, deal with the
just
2
go
or 3
and deal with it
detentions.
tomorrow. Yeah.
I was curious how far Feeney was gonna let it go. Like, was he gonna let him get? All right, I'm on the bus.
He knew where it was gonna go. Like, he knew Corey's limitations.
Yeah.
I would say that in a normal circumstance, yeah, put it off till Monday. But he's his neighbor. He's going to go right to his mother. And not that his parents are the greatest parents either, because they're going to be like, oh, well, that's a part of growing up, Mr. Feeney.
No, they're going to be like, he actually moved out last week, so you can deal with him directly. He's no longer under our roof, and therefore we are no longer in charge of this scenario.
Gordo,
they're great parents.
When you hear the parents, are you under the assumption they're from Minnesota?
Oh, he's not part of our clan anymore.
Oh, don't you know? He's up on that dang treehouse.
Kids being kids, you know how that goes.
No, it's just a generic parent accent.
You know, parent accent. That typical parent voice.
What? It's like, he's not a good boy. Like, what?
Go ahead.
No, it's just something that I always think of, probably because a lot of these shows come from the Midwest. And
that is true,
this
actually.
in
That
the
has
past.
happened a lot.
That is true.
I'll
There's
give
not
you
a
that
lot of
much.
shows in Philadelphia.
Well, they're not going to be like, yo, Angela. They're not going to be like fucking.
I like how you've alienated both our fans in the Midwest and now in the great state of Pennsylvania.
Everybody from Pennsylvania, They're all Rocky, yeah. Corey, I see you up in the treehouse right now. Figure I'll bring you a little chicken and pie.
The mother was Sylvester Stallone track.
But anyways, yeah, Corey eventually caves and he comes back into the classroom and he's telling him how much this stinks.
I think this scene is like the best written like kid scene though.
It was very
like that's how a child acts.
Because when he tells me that it stinks, Feeney's like, it's supposed to stink. It's detention. You're being detained from whatever it is that you'd rather be doing.
I do like his sort of simplistic way of explaining it so that the kid will understand exactly what's happening here, you know?
Yeah, and it kind of goes more into this...
I mean, that's his role throughout, the entire series is to kind of dumb life down for these kids.
Right.
He's their mentor.
Well, and then Corey, I think, still is not under the impression that he's in there because of the headphones. So he's going back to like, why? Just because I don't like care about all this love stuff in the book? He's like, it all leads to nothing anyways. Like, you should know that. And he tells him like, I would know, like, we had dinner together last night. And he's like, wait, what? He's like, I saw you by yourself having dinner. I was in the treehouse. I was eating alone as well. He's like, so what's the point of, killing yourself over this love stuff if you know it leads to nothing?
This is where it gets,
Real?
weirdly real, like about love to an 11-year-old. Like this, I thought was a little off tone.
Well, yeah, he says, well, you shrewd little observer of the human condition, how blissful it must be for you to have lived so little and yet already reached the conclusions of the greatest wonder of the universe. And he's
But
like,
is love the greatest in the universe? Like, I mean, according to Feeney, I know that that's what he's trying to drive home, and I know that's the theme of the show, but like, come on.
You just got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're intentionally trying to salt this for some reason, and like
it's not a
you
good.
keep-
it's
you
not a
keep-
good show. It's just
but you
not
have
a
not
good
provided a
episode.
single good reason as to why that's the
It's
case.
not a
you just
good
keep saying
episode.
that it's not good.
You have some spite towards this show. I don't know why.
I don't
You
like
some.
this.
I can't
show.
wait to hear your cancel full of nothing.
I think it's because he hates love.
Why do you
do
hate
hate
love?
Gordon, why do you
Don't
hate
hurt
love?
me. Baby,
Who
don't
hurt
hurt
you?
me.
Did your wife hit you? Whatever.
No.
Show me
I
on
just
Morgan's doll
don't-
where she hit you.
No, I just don't like this episode. I don't think it's a good episode or a good representation of this show.
Well, to move forward, Mr. Feeney goes on and he tells him, I live right across from your family, and I've seen that your family are good people. I can't help but observe, what's going on in the house next to mine. And he says that your family exists because your parents fell in love. And through that love, they had you and your siblings. And their love is what created your existence, and everything that you have in life was a spawn of love between two people.
He also calls him Corey right now, and it's the only time in the series I remember him ever calling him Corey. And not
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Matthews.
that's a good call. I never even thought about that.
He's also in there for having a headset in a
Right, but
radio.
that's-
Like, come the fuck on.
Well, that's
like-
Corey's disconnect, though. Corey doesn't realize that that's really what it boils down to.
This is when the teacher should have been the teacher and been like, no, knucklehead, you're in here because I caught you with your radio.
Yes,
Well-
but he's educating him on life because he just told him he spied on him.
Well, yeah. You
Yeah,
little
also, he
peeping
just
Tom.
had
He's
admitted
bringing
to a
up
weird
love in
voyeuristic
Shakespeare.
chicken spy.
Giant chicken
Yeah.
leg.
Because I think Corey's justification is, I only was listening to the game because you were teaching me about something I didn't care about. I think is like the angle there. But where in reality, he was going to listen to that Phillies game no matter what the subject, right? So, but he's angling it like, I don't care about this love stuff. It's stupid anyways.
He also just shared with him that his family betrayed him in his eyes, and that Eric, is ditching him for love. So he's, as a great teacher, teaching him about the world, because this is Boy Meets World.
This is
But-
also a scene where not only he says he's 11 years old, but Mr. Feeney reiterates that he is 11 years old.
Yeah. It does come up a bit. I mean, he has quite a good monologue, and I can't read all of what Mr. Feeney said, but I would, advise you guys to give to peel back or to go a little ahead. Me and Gordon do not sit on the same side of the fence when it comes to this episode. I think this is something worth checking out, and the lessons Feeney teaches here, I think, were pretty valuable. But he does, after his whole long monologue tells him, this detention is over now, and allows Corey to leave. So after that, we see the next scene where we're back at home, and he heads back in, and his sister Morgan is sitting there having a tea party with her doll. She asks if Corey will join her at a tea party, but Corey doesn't want anyone else in the family to know that he's there at the moment. He's like, "Oh, you're moving back in?" And he's like, "Yeah, just don't tell anyone." And then she immediately yells, "Corey's back!" So the dad walks in and tells him, it's, about time, dinner's on the table anyways. And Corey says, "I know that you and mom will lose out on all that rental income, but I want my old room back." And he gets that, well, comes at quite an economic blow, but we'll try to get by. And I do like the mother and the father both talk to him in the same, so obviously probably the same writers, writing the lines for both of them, but they have that same type of half sarcasm, but fun banter with him. Like it works really well. There's pretty good chemistry between that whole family.
Yeah, they're pretty easygoing about everything and pretty sarcastic.
During this, though, Corey also apologizes, like, "Hey, I'm sorry I ditched you." And the dad, unaware of the conversation that Corey had with the mother earlier, is like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that, I dumped you for my friends." He's like, "Well, I'm glad you have friends." And, also glad that he's back. And they talk that, maybe they'll play games again in the future. We get to Corey back in the room, and he's playing video games, and he has like that Nintendo gun again, and he's going like, "Die, die," as he shoots. And then Eric walks in, and he shoots towards him and says, "Die again."
I just want to say those were not Duck Hunt sounds.
Yeah, I know they were not.
Also, this is, again, something you could never just pull off on a TV show now with kids.
Shooting the gun and yelling "die" at anything.
Yeah, at your brother.
They're going over the game. He's telling about the game. Corey tells Eric the score to the game. And Eric's like, "Yeah, I heard." He's like, "What do you mean you heard? You were at the game, right?" This part was a little confusing to me, the way it played off, because I thought, well, I wasn't paying attention to the game because I thought it was gonna be making out or something like that. It was going to be that. But instead he's like, "Well, I had a bad date." Well, it's like, well, you would still be somewhat aware of the score. Just because you had a bad date wouldn't distract you from that.
He was nervous on the date.
Yes.
But
well, that's what it comes down to. When he tells him about the date was a disaster, right? He spilled food on himself. He tripped over the chairs. He had nothing interesting to say for the entire 9 innings.
well, he's at a playoff baseball game. Like we talked about that earlier. Like that's kind of understandable, especially like they're fans of the Phillies.
Right, she would have agreed to go, you'd think, because she likes baseball. Otherwise, they would have gone somewhere else.
I think he was just too nervous. So he was just like, he tripped, he spilled shit.
Some little Philly broke his heart.
Who knows? Pretty bird. Pretty bird.
How did I know I got gas?
I think it was more a matter of, maybe it was all in his head. Because we don't even know this girl's perspective of the date, but in his mind, it was a disaster. So, and Corey tells him, "Oh, that's what you get for not taking your brother to the game." Like, instead of empathizing with him right away. Eventually, Corey's like, well, he tells him that, that's my first and last date with Heather. I never want to see her again. Corey goes here, and he hands him the phone to give her a call. Eric goes, "What's this?" It's clearly a phone, you fucking idiot. But he hands him the phone. He goes, "What's this?"
And this isn't even the really stupid.
Yeah, this isn't later on Ed Dumb
later.
Eric. But he's like, "Give her a call," and and apparently just his brother saying that it was enough. Because he tells him, "Why do you want me to call her?" And Corey goes, "I'm told that love is worth it." And he's like, shrugs, like he wasn't saying it in like this honest way, like he learned a lesson. It was just more like, "I've been told that love is worth it, so give her a call."
He wants to take her to the movies in 1992. I love the idea of like, look, there's a lot of great movies in 1992 that would have been great high school dates. Wayne's World.
And you're gonna pick some ones that weren't good.
Oh, as I said, the one that I think would be the funniest thing is like, I took her out. We went to go see Glenn Ross, and she didn't want to make out with me. Speaking of
I took her to
Baldwin's,
see Under Siege.
ooh, Under Siege 1 is a good date movie. Well, you wouldn't want to make out with him because you'd be just too enthralled by all the Steven Seagal action on screen.
Oh, that'd get her all riled up,
Ooh,
I've gone on
true.
gone on some movie dates to movies that like were not for dates at all, like Crank 2.
If Bailing and Crank 2 didn't get her going, I don't know what will.
It was one of those, like, we went to the theaters and it was there was no like real plan for which movies, like, oh, let's just go to the movies. And it was the only thing playing within 2 hours. So like, I guess we're seeing Crank 2.
Crank 2 is an amazing movie though.
I liked it.
I don't know about that, Tim.
Oh, it's far
it's
superior
good.
to the original.
Crank 1 is way better.
No, Crank 2 is way better.
You're the worst.
But they both have Dwight Yoakam.
Yoakam damn near killed him.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
So after this scene, when Corey leaves his brother to call this girl, he heads downstairs and his sister's there with their tea party set up. And Corey asks her this time, like, aren't you going to invite me to have tea with you? Which obviously Morgan would have no reason to think that she should because he says no to her all the time. But he sits with her. He says, no matter how old I get, I'm always going to be your big brother. I think he's finally realizing the error in his ways earlier with her. They're having their tea party for a moment before their mother walks in and says, it's time to put your stuff away and brush your teeth. It's time for bed. And Corey stands up and says, like, hey, how about if we just stay up for a little bit until we finish our tea? And
So
the mother
seems a little too saccharine.
I thought it was fine. I think he's thinking about how much I guess it would be how much he looks up to his older brother. And then maybe it's sunk in that maybe she wants to spend time with, Corey's her older brother. So she just also wants to spend time with him. And he keeps denying her. So maybe he's finally translating all this, like this one time Eric rejected him. He's doing this to his sister all the time. So he's trying to finally give her one and spend a moment with her.
Oh, no, I totally understand it. I just feel like this felt a little too like
Campy.
Full House or something, where
Yeah.
like the music and everything changes and you're like, maybe. I mean, again, I'm judging that scene just on the fact that like maybe the pilot had a lot of that already and didn't need more. Or this maybe could have been a little quicker so it didn't feel
I thought it was a good moment because I
nice.
think Morgan needed that, like
I typically don't like that stuff too. I mean, I agree because like Full House did a lot of it to the point where
And overdid it.
It was kind of nauseating.
it became like the
sometimes.
joke later
But
on.
I never really, I never got that feeling, especially from this episode. I thought it was, done in the right amount. Like there was just enough of it. Not
It wasn't
too much.
overly dramatic. Yeah. He just kind of offers to, because the mother's like, are you offering to get her ready for bed then? If you're going to stay up with her a little later? And he's like, yeah, I guess I am. I think the final scene, because it went to like, was this one of those credit and then this would have been the post-credit scene?
Yeah, there's like the credits or whatever, and then you get the that's the word I'm looking for here.
Like the teaser, like the bumper. I don't even know what you call them.
There's a word for it.
Yeah, I know like there's a soft open and then
Stinger.
I hate that I can't think of it.
After credit.
Well, the post-credit scene or whatever it would be.
Anyway,
Yeah.
It'll come to me.
Is we see Feeney there with that other teacher, Evelyn, and they're sitting at the table together at lunch in the cafeteria again. And he says, I hope I'm not being too forward, but maybe
Stinger.
we could have dinner. Stinger. It is Stinger.
Yeah.
I said that.
He says,
Did you?
yeah. He
Oh,
did
I'm sorry,
say
I didn't
it.
hear you.
He did say it. Because I was thinking about the website Media Stinger, which tells you if there's after credit scenes in movies. Anyways.
Stinger.
A man called
Yeah.
Sting. Or
Woo! So Feeney asks Evelyn, hey, I hope I'm not being too forward, but would you like to have dinner with me sometime? And she agrees. And he says, oh, like I'm a great cook. He talks about, the other night I prepared a lovely salad. It was
Cook a salad.
It was he said
No,
he
it was
prepared
an
it.
niçoise. It was
Yeah.
a niçoise salad. So you cook that.
Do?
Yeah, it's a salmon.
Well, from what
Salmon niçoise.
when I looked it up, it's first off, it translates to in the style of nice is what that translates to. And it was listed as a salad that usually consists primarily of olives, tomatoes, anchovies, tuna, and beans or green vegetables. That sounds terrible to me. And it looks like Feeney just had a
All
giant
of
bowl
those
of lettuce.
ingredients are in most salad dressings.
I mean, there's like
Caesar.
some anchovy and Caesar, right? But I'm not an olive
not
guy.
a good date food, though. You don't want to have something like anchovies if there might be potentially...
Well, it wasn't a date. It was for his sister, which we just found out.
Well,
Right,
that's,
he's saying
that's
that,
what
like,
we
I'm
find
a
out.
good cook, I can make this. And if she was like, ooh, that sounds delicious, I'd love that, then he'd have to be like, I better get some certs.
Yeah. Here's your plate of beans and anchovies.
Certs?
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that was...
Certs?
I was trying to think of 1992.
Okay, well, then you did a good job. Okay, yeah.
It would be a Listerine tab.
That was like a
I was trying
modern
to be
day.
like contrarian. I was trying to think of like what he would need to buy.
Someone's
but-
been hanging out with Dalia too much.
A Mentos.
But to go back, Ferg, you mentioned it. It was, we find out that dinner that Corey saw him dining alone was meant to be a dinner between him and his sister. And the sister couldn't make it last minute. And I think he intentionally gave that extra bit of information out loud because Corey was within an earshot, so he would learn about that.
How you like that, you little shit?
You little piece of shit.
Also, for that was supposed to be a meal for him and his sister, but it was like a candlelight romantic dinner.
That's
with the
why
chairs
I-
close to each
Weird.
other.
I do
Yeah.
wonder if he's lying. Maybe it was meant to be a date, but he is first doesn't want to tell this girl Evelyn that he was supposed to go on a date the other night, and B is trying to cover it up so Corey doesn't think he got stood up.
Well, to be fair, he is still trying to tackle all the human emotion stuff because for the past 40 years before this, he was a talking car. And now it's really hard for him to get it all together.
The skin suit. But yeah, that was like the final button on the episode. It ended there. Again, Boy Meets World, such an iconic show. It had such a good long run. It's interesting to go back and start from the beginning because as Ferg, you mentioned earlier, the show grew up with us. So
Yep.
we moved on with those kids. So to go back and see them young again was so interesting. And because I haven't really revisited these early episodes. I think a lot of times I would catch it in syndication. It was later on.
Yeah,
and
you,
you don't
you
catch
usually
these
go
as
to the
much.
high school years with
Yeah.
like Mr. Turner and Frankie the Enforcer. And all
Right.
that
And even
crew.
beyond that, when they go to like college and stuff like that, there wasn't like these early episodes just don't seem to be aired as much for whatever reason. It was interesting. Like I said, no Topanga, there was no Minkus. So a lot of the things I do know about the show weren't present in episode 1. But again, it's a pilot. So you don't know how far removed the pilot was from the filming of the rest of the season. So that could have all been stuff that got edited or retooled later on before they finished with the run. Maybe like we need a strong female character to go with the kids. We need the nerdy kid. We don't know. But is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as Boy Meets World goes?
I will say that I think everyone's touched on a little, and Nick had brought it up in the beginning. It is interesting that this show looms so large for a lot of us, but not from this era of the show.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like you were mentioning, like all the wrestling episodes and the crew of kids in high school, and when they start dating, like that's all in our brains. And I wonder if it's because that stuff seemed more important to us at that time than this stuff seemed to us at that time. You know what I mean?
No, I remember it all.
But
I
when you think
remember
of
it
do you
all,
think of?
but-
I remember it all, but when you think of it, do you think of them as 11-year-olds, or do you think of them as high school kids?
I think, yeah, you're right. I think I'm a little older, like when Sean joined the cult.
Right.
I just
mean,
watched that episode recently, actually.
Vader, you know, all that stuff is like where you go to. And it's not saying that the earlier seasons are bad. It just feels like if we were to grow up with this show, which we sort of did, that it was more weirdly there for us in that time than this time.
Right.
So I want to point out, these writers hated Sean Hunter because they just shit on him the entire show.
His life was
They
so
made him
tragic.
so dumb.
Everything about his
so-
life was so
yeah.
tragic.
He like started off as mischievous and then just became like an idiot.
They killed off his parents. They fucking...
Eric became an idiot. Eric became a complete
Eric
Well,
gets
they
flanderized.
they
hardcore.
flanderized the shit out
Yeah.
of Eric, but
He became super goofy.
they just like the plot device is making a bad decision, right? And they made Sean make all of those bad decisions,
Yeah.
and Corey was there to be like, "You shouldn't do this." It's like,
Well, like his mom, his mom ran off on him. His father was Farmer Fran.
he was.
And you, Bobby Boucher.
I forgot that he was the dad. Because home was where to
R.I.P.
make it.
Yeah. So I mean, that was. Yeah, I think we do think about that later era of Boy Meets World a little bit more than we think about this one. So in so many ways, it feels like we're reviewing a different show in a way because it changed so much.
I think maybe too in syndication, they probably played that part of the show more.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. I think every time I would catch it, it's later
Yeah,
on.
right,
It's
yeah.
very
think
rarely this
about
stuff.
think about Family Matters with the first couple episodes without Urkel. Like you don't think of the show like that just being about the Winslows. You think
Right.
about Urkel, and that's kind of what this was.
Yeah.
Need the Bruce juice.
But yeah, I think we just about covered everything that we could cover. So as it stands now, I think there's nothing left to do but greenlight or cancel. Gordon, I'm going to start with you, although I think we already know your answer here.
Yeah, it's a cancel. I like the show. I don't like the pilot. I don't know. It was not. It was too serious. There wasn't enough in it for me. I was kind of bored through it, and it felt like it wasn't a sitcom, and it felt just a little bit too young for me at this point in time. Like, I don't know. There's kid shows that inject more comedy in it, and I don't know. I just didn't like this pilot. in comparison to the rest of the show. So if I'm going to go based on solely just this episode, I'm going to cancel it.
Nick.
Yeah, I really liked this show. I was afraid going back that the nostalgia was going to get ruined for me. Because like I said, I had been watching this show, and you see it on TV every now and again, but it's usually the later episodes. I picked the later episodes, and I was afraid that it was going to bomb in the beginning of the series and not really feel right anymore. But it that wasn't the case. I enjoyed it still. To Gordo's point about not having enough comedy, I think, Jay, you said it too. I think it's more about I think they did it in a way that they kind of waited for their pitch for these jokes instead of swinging at everything and throwing out, because I could see you arguing that there was too much humor that didn't work, like if it was a joke every other line, So I like that they gave you an actual story and there was enough humor in it to keep the story lighthearted. They did the whole Full House lesson thing, but they didn't, make it suck and feel weird like Full House did a lot. And, everything was capped with some form of humor at one point or another. There was a lot of good character development. I liked the chemistry between Feeney and Corey was really interesting and funny, and it definitely leaves more to be desired. I want to keep watching after seeing that episode. Is there a bit of like this, not nostalgia like we were talking about? Is there a bit of that driving me in this decision? I'm sure that's uncontrollable, but I think if I'm trying to look at this without having any of that knowledge, I think I would still want to keep watching it. So it's a green light for me.
Ferg.
Yeah, green light for me too. I really enjoyed this pilot. I thought the writing was really well for the children, and a lot of time kid actors, it's an adult writing for a kid, and it just sounds fake. And I thought a lot of the dialogue sounded like something like a kid his age would say. I'm not sure, but it felt like too, even with the parents speaking to the kids, it felt like it was written by a parent who has kids and experienced all that stuff. I thought all the jokes hit at the right time. The kid actors they played a really good role. Again, kid actors are very hit or miss. And Ben Savage went on. I don't know if he went on to do very much after this, but you know what? He rode this to the very end, so he must have done something well. So yeah, green light for me.
Joe.
Yeah, Nick, I thought it was interesting. We talked about Full House a couple times, and I don't think we mentioned that they both mentioned Full House and America's Funniest Videos.
Yeah, that's right.
On this episode, which I really feel like is them trying to telegraph where they want you to think of this show, sort of what had place in your head. Do I think it's a little too saccharine? Yes. Do I think the writing suffered a little bit? Yeah, but I don't think it was bad, right? Like, I mean, again, is this for us? This is always tough with these shows, right? We probably should take a break from kid shows for a while just to like reset our adult brains. I don't have a ton to say about it aside from, like, again, it's probably a little nostalgia too, like Nick said. I think the teenage years are probably more enjoyable now as a person in his mid-30s. But I mean, this wasn't bad. It was funny. There's some good moments to it. It was funny in a way that there wasn't jokes. It was like the kind of funny where you don't laugh, you just smile, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not depressing like the Wonder Years or anything. So I would say give this one a green light, because especially with Mr. Feeney being all around us, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, so I'm going with the majority of you. This is a green light from me. And it's funny because before I watched the episode, it was kind of in my head. I didn't know how I wouldn't green light it, because I know this is a show that I've loved for so many years. But as we said, recently, the early episodes are so much different from the layout of the show we've come to know later on. So it wasn't as obvious to me, like once the show got rolling. But I think there's just so much heart there. I like that it's a kid's show that plays in a way that kids can understand it, but still has enough depth to it that an adult can watch it and enjoy it. I thought there was a lot of great chemistry between the cast. I really have no specific complaints about it personally. I just thought it was a good episode. A lot of characters that I come to know and love. I thought more of them would be here, but it was really bare bones. We really just kind of focused on Corey, his family, and Mr. Feeney for the most part. And now there is a little bit more from Sean and his friend Nicholas, but essentially they really just focused on like, this is what this show is about. Here's that before we inject all this other stuff at you, and I'm cool with that. You got a good dynamic for who the family are, where they stand on things, what their life is. And it gives you a good foundation. So overall, yeah, it's a green light for me. I enjoyed it. Again, it's a timeless show, but taking all that away and trying to take away my preconceived, thoughts, I just think it's a green light regardless. So in any event, that's 4 out of 5 from us. So that is a passing grade with S1E1. So congratulations, Boy Meets World. You live on to see another day, despite Gordo's best wishes. So you guys go on to episode 2. Congratulations again. Guys, don't forget to go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to where you can listen to us. All our social media is attached to that. Twitter, Instagram, everything. Give us follows, subscribe, do all that stuff, rate, review. That does help us quite a bit. Spread the word. We put out a new episode each and every week, so please keep listening. Let your friends know if you think it's a show that they would like. It does mean a lot. We love seeing the interaction from all you guys on social media. But trust me when I say we all talk privately in our chats. When we get comments, when people direct message us, talk to us about the show, it truly does mean a lot. We put a lot into it. We obviously all have outside jobs and stuff. This is not what pays our bills, so we do this as a labor of love. We do like knowing that it is appreciated, so thank you guys. But yeah, that's all the time we have for this week. Please tune in again next week. We will have another new episode for you then. But that's it, all the time we have. So thank you. Goodbye.
We got the best big horny bird.
Underpants.